Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. Today we're going to be talking about the SpongeBob movie game. Back in 2019, I did a series of SpongeBob reviews, and there we talked about both SpongeBob theatrical movies that were out at the time, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie and Sponge Out of Water. Rewatching both movies earlier this year, I still think they really hold up, and the first one's especially a really good animated movie, both connected to the show and as its own standalone film. It has a great plot, great use of its characters, wonderful music, and it worked as a great finale piece, only for Nickelodeon to keep it going because it makes them a fat stack of money. That same summer, I also looked at the most beloved of the games connected to this series, Battle for Bikini Bottom, an excellent collectathon platformer that utilizes a fun story, open world level design, and fun gameplay for young and old players alike. So, finally returning to the world of SpongeBob games, we're going to be looking at the movie tie-in game made by the same studio behind Battle for Bikini Bottom, that being good old THQ and Heavy Iron Studios, relying on a similar design that game had with its open world item collection and platforming. At least for the console version. Yeah, the PC version was a point-and-click game, and the GBA game was a 2D platformer. However, unlike Battle for Bikini Bottom, this movie game didn't seem to capture the same kind of reputation. Not to say that it wasn't successful, because it was. There were even reviews at the time that said it was even better than Battle for Bikini Bottom. But in terms of popularity, it seems that game is the one that won in the end. But hey, clearly it must have done something right if it was able to get such positive feedback when it first came out. So, let's look at it now and see how it holds up. Especially compared to one of the best games I reviewed for this series. This is the SpongeBob movie game. Right off the bat, this game does try to follow the movie's plot, with not a lot of differences from the final film. However, with the cutscenes, you're given a slideshow. Sometimes using shots from the movie, and other times using what looks like concept art and awkward photoshopped images. Which is a darn shame. I'm not sure if there was some kind of limit to what they could use, what with Nick being incredibly protective of their content, or maybe there was some kind of time crunch to get the game done and they figured this was easier than importing clips from the movie. Either way, it does make me long for the actual in-game graphic cutscenes the few times they have them. But still, it doesn't stop me from feeling like this is just some kind of old YouTube video made in Windows Movie Maker. Much like Battle for Bikini Bottom, this game is one of the rare tie-in games that has CG versions of 2D characters that actually look pretty good. Along with that, they managed to get a lot of the main cast back. Not just the usual names like Tom Kenny, Bill Figurbacchi, and Mr. Lawrence, but they also managed to get Jeffrey Tambor and Scarlett Johansson to reprise their roles from the movie. But you know what the biggest surprise to me was? After not having him as Mr. Krabs in Battle for Bikini Bottom, they actually got Clancy Brown back to do his voice.
It started out as a simple order, a Krabby Patty with cheese.
So what went wrong?
When the customer took a bite, no cheese! Oh, this has never happened before!
They did it, everybody! They got Clancy Brown to come back as Mr. Krabs! They actually did it! Oh my god! But it seems we also have a case of Friendship is Magic Season 1 on our hands, where the main characters sound good, but the background characters have the most goofy, exaggerated voices ever.
It's 8 in the morning. Closed. Go collect your friend and get out of here.
Did they record that guy's audio with a literal potato? Seriously, why does it sound so scuffed like that? Anyway, they stick close to the plot of the movie. SpongeBob is excited, thinking he's going to become the manager of the new Krusty Krab 2, but instead it goes to Squidward. SpongeBob indulges in alcoholism in the form of ice cream, while Plankton initiates Plan Z and steals Neptune's crown. Framing Mr. Krabs, Neptune is ready to burn him alive, but SpongeBob and Patrick stand up in his honor and decree that they'll get the crown back in 6 days. Their trek across the ocean making up most of the gameplay here. And because she didn't have a very major role in the movie, unfortunately this means you can't play as Sandy like you did in Battle for Bikini Bottom. Yes, I saw a million other people brought it up in their reviews, and they're not lying when they say that as a criticism. It really does kind of suck, especially considering Sandy was probably the most popular character to play as in that game. While back at home, Plankton steals the Krabby Patty formula and gets business for the Chum Bucket booming, taking over the town with mind control bucket helmets, though this does come into play in the final level, which we'll eventually get to. But for now, the overall game does do a good job taking the movie's plot and turning it into a fun collectathon platformer with a variety of other mini-games along the way. For the most part, the gameplay plays out very similarly to Battle for Bikini Bottom, just with different locations and other minor differences like different abilities. The bus stop lampposts are replaced with these porta potties, tiki heads are replaced with boxes and Crash Bandicoot style barrels, SpongeBob's tongue whip ability is swapped out with him being able to use his karate gloves, Patrick is given a spin attack and a cartwheel, SpongeBob is given a guitar which helps take out enemies, and so many other little changes. Aside from these, a lot of the same mechanics from Battle for Bikini Bottom are here, from SpongeBob's Bubble Bowl move to Patrick's ability to pick up items and body slam. But here's where the differences start to kick in. Whereas Battle for Bikini Bottom was a lot more open world, giving you more opportunity to explore the world at large, this game is a lot more linear and straightforward, with the main objective being to go from the beginning to the end of the stage while collecting these Goofy Goober tokens, which are basically this game's equivalent of the shiny objects from the last game. And make sure you collect all of these or else you're not progressing or getting additional power-ups that you need to advance from Mindy.
You have enough Goofy Goober tokens. Now I can teach you the bash move.
Now, if you think this sounds incredibly tedious and means you're going to have to do a lot of backtracking just so you can collect more tokens and progress throughout the game, then you'd absolutely be right. It's a major pain in the ass. I had to double check this once I finished the game, and no, you're not really given anything special for 100%ing this thing. You get unlockable costumes and an extra viewable cutscene, and that's about it. And that's not even counting other minor bonuses like trailers for other Nick shows and games, which was a regular thing for a lot of Nick games at the time. It's neat in retrospect, but it's not worth all the backtracking you're going to have to do for this thing. You can also collect barbells, which adds to your manly meter, which you can use to upgrade your abilities throughout the game. All that being said, I didn't really mind the key gameplay or level design in this game. It does feel like a lower tier Battle for Bikini Bottom, but I still enjoyed playing this one as its own thing. I got used to the controls fine enough, the levels are fun to barrel through, and I liked a lot of the level design using key elements and locations from the movie. From the outskirts of Bikini Bottom, near the Thug Tug, the Frogfish Chase, the deep, dark, mysterious, hazardous, monster-infested trench, the Shell City gift shop, riding on David Hasselhoff's back.
How are we gonna get back to Bikini Bottom?
I can take you there.
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god, what the hell is that? Get it away from me, oh god. I don't know if they couldn't get Hasselhoff's permission to use his likeness, or they didn't have enough money to get him in the game, or whatever, but what the hell is that? That's clearly not even him. Somewhere I just know poor Elvish Reviews is heartbroken for how dirty they did Hasselhoff here. Well, if anything, at least they got Hasselhoff to show up for the most recent SpongeBob game that came out.
I'm David Hasselhoff. To save Bikini Bottom.
Yay!
Really does make up for whatever the hell that is supposed to be. Also, just look at this. Fighting Dennis on a creepily photorealistic hairy man's back. I think I'm gonna barf. And finally, the last level of the game being Planktopolis. But before we talk about that, let's talk about some of the mini-games and boss battles. Maybe it's just me, but with the exception of the final boss in the game, most of the boss battles are incredibly easy. They just take a couple of hits and they go down like nothing. This is especially weird since most of the boss battles in Battle for Bikini Bottom were incredibly difficult and kept players on their toes, even for a game that was marketed towards children. However, a lot of these mini-games do add a lot of variety to this game, which I did appreciate. You get fighting segments with SpongeBob fighting gauntlets of background fish characters, Patrick doing Mario 64 style multi-angle platforming, SpongeBob does this ball roll segment, much like Battle for Bikini Bottom, they have SpongeBob and Patrick sliding in these racing segments, and even racing segments where you drive around the levels in the paddy wagon, complete with the burger slowly losing pieces the more damage you take. It's a nice little detail that they included. Most of these mini-games do feel like a welcome change of pace, even if some of them aren't that great. The fighting stages feel like their main means of challenge is just spamming enemies at you. The Patrick platforming stage becomes incredibly discombobulating with the spinning backgrounds, and I'm not really a fan of the ring segments. If you're familiar with my reviews, you should know I have a terrible history with ring segments in games. I still have nightmares of them to this day. Easily one of the most difficult of these mini-games is the sliding stage near the end of the game when you're in Shell City, where you have to slide down these tubes while dodging Diver Dan over here, who seems to change size every time he pops up. Speaking of which, that segues us into the final area of the game, Planktopolis, which, like I mentioned earlier, is easily the most difficult part of the whole game. This has all the trademarks of a difficult final level in a video game. Tons of enemies and projectiles coming right at you, obstacle course areas that are actively trying to slip you up, having to seriously take your time with jumps so you don't hit spikes below you, having to time your jumps on platforms that crumble beneath you. This will seriously try your patience, but with some hard work and perseverance, I managed to pass all of this crap. The final boss is a mind-controlled King Neptune firing lasers at you with his trident. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the hardest boss level in the game, and I'm honestly okay with that. It felt like the right level of difficulty for the final part of the game. It goes in 3 segments, and you usually have to land hits on him using your guitar or other kind of projectiles you can throw, with the final portion going full Goofy Goober rock mode where the song plays in the background. In my opinion, this is the perfect soundtrack to conclude a game based on this movie. And with that, we end with Neptune's crown being returned, Plankton being taken to jail, and SpongeBob finally proving himself to everyone, with even more MS Paint slideshow graphics fresh out of a Pony Fanboy Megacorp video.
And so ends the most heroic tale ever told in Bikini Bottom. And as the sun sets over the island paradise above the waves, we must stop and wonder, how long until the sequel? Depends on the box office. Now go outside and get some sun. You look awful pale.
Well, guess that's it. Like I said, no kind of special reward for 100%ing this thing, just some additional outfits and an extra cutscene. Yeah, that made it worth it. Well, that was the SpongeBob movie game, and overall, it's not a bad game, but it's definitely a hard son of a bitch. Oh, and it's also not as good as Battle for Bikini Bottom. Hell, the original version and the rehydrated version. I know it's a hard act to follow, especially considering how popular that game was and still is to this day, but saying this game is a lower tier Battle for Bikini Bottom is pretty accurate, even down to a lot of the gameplay mechanics and layout. The game's difficulty ranges from incredibly easy to screw this, I'm done. The gameplay is enjoyable for the most part, there are fun challenges throughout, it does stick close to the plot of the movie, and the graphics, not counting the slideshow cutscenes, look pretty good for an early 2000s game. Just go in with lower expectations and be ready to do a lot of backtracking to complete this thing. So much like I said with Toy Story on Sega Genesis, this is far from a bad game, but you're really gonna have to knuckle down and put some time away to complete this thing. Next time, we're gonna be doing 4 games in one video centered around everyone's favorite cartoon ogre. But until then, I'm the Media Wiz, cause one art form wasn't enough. Oh my god! Turn into John Travolta on the end of that. Oh my god!